Hello friends, welcome back. Now so far we learned two ways how we can apply Python and leverage it in Power BI. So the first one was to create various visuals, as we've seen here, using the mat.lib as well as the Seaborn library. The second way was when we did some kind of data transformations within the current editor. Referring to the last video with the Apple data. This is especially helpful if the transformations you want to apply are not available by default in a query editor, or you would have to write custom code for that, but you don't know the language M. So then Python might be one option to go. There's a third option to use Python, and this is when you import the data. Let me show this to you. But before we do that, we need one additional package, which is the Y-Finance package. The Y-Finance or Yahoo Finance package is a package you can download for free for Python, which allows you to import stock market data into Power BI. I'm just using this as an example. You can also go with your own example if you want. The way it works is then the same, but in my case I'm using Y-Finance. So Y-Finance is the package as a set, but in order to use it, we need to go back to our Anaconda navigator. Just in case you have closed it, remember go simply search Anaconda and Anaconda prompt to open the navigator. This one's here, this one. And then make sure that in the parentheses, there is the Power BI environment, which you have created and specified. If not, if you're referring to the base environment, use conda activate and then the name of the specific Power BI environment, just to make sure that you install the package in the right environment. So then all you need to do is using either conda or pip. And as I said, I always go with the pip command, so pip install and then use Y-Finance. So that's everything. Simply type pip install and then Y-Finance. OK. And then if I run this, I already installed it. So that is why it will tell me already satisfied, but you probably have not. So please run this pip install Y-Finance, press enter. And you see that for me, as I said, it's already satisfied because I already installed it. But for you, you would download the package from the internet and then install it. But it should work actually quickly. So then let me go back to Power BI and now the package is installed and we can use it. So in order to import data, for a fact, you simply go to get data in here and then you have the option to choose from various sources. Now since Python is not, let's say, one of the most often used sources, that's why it's not appearing here. And there's also not a source directly from Microsoft, like Excel, Power BI data sets and so on. So we need to go to more and then wait until the navigate window opens. And here we go. And then you can either search for Python, you can go to other and search for Python. There it is. Or you simply go on a search and here type in Python, right? That works exactly the same way. If I go with Python here, I can see that here the Python script is available. And this is also way to import the data. So if you go to connect, then you should see here a script editor. Now it's kind of plain, right? There is not really a help here. There's nothing inside. You simply write your script in here. That is why if you don't want to use this editor here or this plain window, you can use any kind of editor you want. Like your Python script, import the data using for instance pandas to import some data using CSV file or any other kind of files and write this code in your preferred editor and then simply paste the code inside here. OK, that's what it can do. In my case, I can write it directly in here. So I can go inside and say data is equal to and then I specify Y-Finance. So Y-Finance. And before, of course, I can use it, I need to import the package. So let's say here import Y-Finance as YF. OK. So import the package and then I can write my code and just don't worry. I will also display the code in the bigger size later on. Okay. Because here again, I can't zoom in directly. So I go to data equals y finance and then I can simply say .download. And then I can specify various things here. So for instance, what are the tickers? So what kind of stocks I want to download the data for? So let's say tickers is equal to and then I specify either one stock. If you're only interested in one stock, simply type in the abbreviation for the stock. If you don't know the abbreviation for the stock, then simply search it on the internet. So for instance, a Tesla is TSLA as an example and other ones like APL is Apple and so on. So this is can look this up on the internet for your preferred stock. So or the second way would to use a string here for several stocks. So just as an example, I could type in TSLA for Tesla. And then I also use, let's say, Microsoft MSFT. Okay. So these are two stocks and I put those in quotes without any separation between just a space. Okay. So no comma, no dot nothing. So we have the tickers. So what we want. And we can specify the period. So period, and the period could be anything. So YDD as an example in quotes would be year-to-date data. In this case, I simply specify 1MO. Which simply refers to 1 month. And if you want to know more about how this library works, I encourage you to go on the internet search for it because the documentation again is very good for this library and it tells you exactly what you need to specify, what options do you have to specify that. Here to get exactly the data for the time frame you want in the shape you want. Okay. Then because we use several stocks here using Tesla and Microsoft, we need to define a group by. So let's say group by and specify this by ticker. So ticker option. Okay. And then we say we want to auto adjust. So it's also parameter, which is defined here auto adjust and set this to true is regarding to the high, low, and so on for the stock price. And then what we also need is say pre-post is also an argument can set if you want. I put this to true. So I'm using as much arguments here as possible, more or less just to show you what's available in here. Let me break this into a new line like that. So order just is true, pre-post is true. So pre-post is referring to the fact that you want to download pre and post a regular market hours data or not. And then what's also available here is the threats. So you can specify threats is equal to true. So threats is referring to downloading how many threats you want to use. So it's a true fault or an integer. You can also specify an integer if you want here by default, I set it to true for the threats. And then finally, I also define what an option it is. It's actually a decent option to find a proxy. So if I go here and say proxy. So if you're referring to or you're using a proxy, you can define this. But default, it's none. So that is why you can type it none or you can leave it blank. But this would be actually the code. And then you close the parentheses and you're good to go. And as I said, I like to show you this bigger size. So let me copy this and let me go to the Jupyter notebook here and I go inside here, I have a new line and I paste this inside. And that's basically the coding here, right? So like that. And if you also want to visualize that, if I go to data.head just to visualize what this actually looks like, I run this code here in Jupyter notebook and you see. We got the data downloaded and I get here my data frame with the close, high, low, open, and volume. So all these columns here for the two stocks we have. So we can see Microsoft as well as Tesla and we can see the data here up to the 10th of March up to the latest day in April, in my case. Okay. And here it's exactly the same. The only thing which I do not specify is the head command for this plane which cause we store all the data in this data variable here. And if you run this code, you can do that here in Power BI as well. So you connect the data set and then this window should open here for you and you should see something here, which in this case, we're from to Python because it's what we use. And you can see some kind of data in here, right? So I named this also data. That's why this table data appears here. And if you take this option, then you should see exactly the data you requested from the internet. Okay. And you can see here, it started with close, close 1, high, high 2 and so on because it's referring to the two stocks we have, right? Microsoft as well as Tesla because the point is that go back to the Jupyter notebook in our case because we specified here two stocks, which was Tesla and Microsoft. What Pandas automatically did here was creating a data frame with multi-headers, right? So there's a close header and there's a subheader for Microsoft and Tesla, so for all the stocks. And this, of course, like that is not or directly available in Microsoft Power BI. So probably is simply filling those values. That is why you would see close, close 1, high, high 2 and so on. And then you can see in the first column, the different kinds of stock prices in here. If you want to edit this data, simply take the option here, go to transform data and then you open the navigator and you have the normal default options, right? To work with this data. So you can do any kind of transformations you want. You can from the default settings here, you can go to transform and run further Python scripts if you font and do whatever you like with the data. But that's actually it for now. So this would be the third option to use Python in Power BI. So for now, we know that we have three options to leverage Python either through visuals in a report directly or within the query editor running Python scripts, which allows you to do some kind of advanced transformations, which might not be available by default. And a third option would be to use Python at the beginning when we import the data. This could be useful, especially if you import data from the web, for instance, as we've seen with the finesse because there are various packages out there which are quite neat and helpful and easy to use. And you can simply leverage Python to get this data and put it into Power BI and then create some stunning visualizations on top of it. Okay. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you were able to follow along. Hopefully you can try this out yourself. And thanks a lot for watching. As always, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, best guys. Best.